Alan May. Welcome to 10 Questions.
Thanks, buddy. I'm excited.
Good, man. Alan and I are recording this on the day after Christmas, and so Alan, did you and your family have a great holiday?
Yes, fantastic, relaxing, and chaotic all at the same time.
Right? That's Christmas, right? That's what the holidays are generally, is relaxed chaos.
That is it. That is it.
So we'll just kind of jump into it, Alan. So question one is pretty much always, what or who got you into collecting?
Oh, man. Yeah, I think we all kind of probably have close to the same answer on this, but I collected cards, things like that when I was younger. We were poor. I mean, we grew up in actually over the Rhine is where we grew up. So we were poor, didn't have a lot of money. So instead of collecting cards or comics starting out, I collected WWF action figures.
Sure.
And that was when bendy stuff was good. So everything was a bendy Hulk Hogan and a bendy Macho Man. And, so I remember collecting those, and my goal was always to get, if it was a Royal Rumble year, I'd have all the Royal Rumble participants in that. So, started with that and then moved up to cards, baseball, football, and then you kind of, I grew up in Cincinnati. So, you get tired of collecting losers. So.
Easy, Alan, easy. What people don't know, Alan is originally from Cincinnati, and I live really close. I mean, as far as professional teams go, really Cincinnati's it.
That's it.
For us. So, I mean, we're in Kentucky. We don't have any professional teams. We have college basketball, and then we have the Reds and the Bengals. And
I was a Bengals fan when there was Boomer Esiason, and you'd collect the holographic card and all this stuff. It was great, man. I think that's where all the collecting started, is in that mentality. And then when you get to high school, there was the Pokemon cards and the Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. But I think we were all collectors. So even though I played Nintendo, I wanted all the Nintendo games. I wanted all of the Marios. I wanted all of the Street Fighters. There was always that collector mentality.
Do you consider yourself, as a collector, do you consider yourself a completionist? When you start something, do you have to finish it?
Yes. So, and it's become my cross to bear. It's a burden, and it's this anal, this ADD driven thing where, so I collect vinyl, and that was probably my first completist mentality, was in vinyl. Because when people put out a record, they have the standard black record, they've got the colored vinyl, they've got the limited edition tour variants, and they've got all these different things, and I would collect them all, and I had to have the full variant collection of all the vinyl, and that's kind of carried over to comics, to completing runs, and having a full long box of Uncanny X-Men that my wife just looks at in disgust. And and it's definitely man, the completist mentality is it's been my downfall and my greatest achievement. Because as a collector, once you get that complete run, or once you get that complete set, it's kind of like, what do you do now? Right. It's like when you get your Amazing Fantasy 0.5, you've got to, you should be, by all standards, you should be good with that, but you're not. Right, exactly. You see a 1.5, and now you're like, let's get there. I love that.
Yeah, no, I do too. So question two is, and I've seen your wife on your channel a few times, but and I know your kids are pretty young, I think.
Yeah.
Is any of your family, even I would say your wife and kids, but any of your immediate family involved in the hobby as well?
So this is where it gets a little tricky. So, and I try to, even when I did the mystery box, I kind of explained this. So I work for myself for a living. I am a full-time reseller, thrifter, yada, 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 and I'm able to provide for the 3 kids and the wife with that. And it's been a great year. This has been the best year for that. Everybody else has gone down, and I've shooting up. It's been fantastic. Not for everybody else, but for me, it's been good.
Sure, right.
But at this point, she's supportive, but there's a clear definition between the hobby for me and the business side of it.
Right,
So,
sure.
And as you know, like you get these mystery boxes, you know, I may keep one thing out of them, two things out of them, and they have a resale value, and I will gladly give them to somebody else because they're not going to sit. I don't have the room or space, and you know, if I was going to start collecting Venom variants, you know, it'd be an insane thing to do. So at this point, she's very supportive of the hobby, but even then, just the other day, she asked me. I asked her if I could. Because money gets tight around Christmas. So I said, hey, can I buy this slab for myself? It's and I'm trying to explain. It's a 9.8. It's worth this. It can get to this value. And she said no, and I bought it anyways. so yeah, she hit me in the head for that, but I still got it. So
right. Well, that's marriage, though.
It's a give and take.
You're right. It is a give and take. You try to talk and say, hey, I need this, and try to get their approval before you do it. You know you're going to do it, and then you just take what comes later, Yeah.
So I will say, cool. Yeah, she's actually been scouting out. So when I buy collections, she's actually been scouting out collections for me. So it's kind of really cool to be able to, actually with the last run of mystery boxes, we went through it and she's like, oh, who's this? And I go, hey, that's Vision. Let's talk about Vision. That's where we get on like, okay, well, WandaVision's come out. Let's watch the trailer for this. And she's starting to understand things. And but she's definitely supportive as someone, because she just sees it as, $1,000 graded comic that's just going to sit and she just sees $1,000 just sitting there. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I see the big picture and I see the passion in my heart, but she's always been supportive for sure.
Well, your comment's valid though, because for you as a reseller, it literally is how you provide for your family.
Yes.
So it's like, as your spouse, you could see, that's how you take care of your kids. That's how, you guys take care of your family. So there has to be a very, very clear line in between. Because, I have a similar kind of thought process. I'm not like a full-time reseller or anything. But most mystery boxes that I get, I'm keeping one or two books and then just selling the rest of them, and getting as much of my money back as I can. And
never-ending cycle.
And just constantly flip it, which I think is good because it's like you said, somebody who's going to actually appreciate it as a collector, that might be a completionist, that might be, they have an outlet to get it, but it helps you as far as you're part of the hobby. So I think that's I think it's a great answer, actually. Yeah. So question 3. So what inspired you to do a YouTube channel? Like, why did you say, hey, let's jump on YouTube?
Man, the honest answer is, I've been to the Cincinnati Comic-Con a couple times, and I went to visit my brother. And then I'd done MegaCon down here in Orlando a couple times. I'd done SuperCon and all the different cons around here. And, I missed the cons, and that was it. And it was the older you get, all you've really got is your family and a couple little things here and there. But it's not like I have many people to talk comics with and things like that. So I actually started my YouTube channel probably right before COVID, and it was just an outlet. Like, I had a bunch of people tell me I was posting my liquidation pallets that I would buy on Instagram and Facebook, and people would say, man, you got to shoot a video on this. And I'd show them, hey, this is what I'm making off of this. And this is my sold comps for this month. And they go, good Lord, teach us how to do this. I started the YouTube. I think a couple of the first videos were up. I deleted a bunch of them, but the couple of the first videos are still up there of me just going through stuff, and you'll see me pull out Beats headphones and stuff like that. And it was purely out of boredom. There's, as you could tell, because you're on a whole nother level than me, and so is Jim and very Gary that you've done. But I don't edit at all. Very rarely will I edit. It is truly just it's a fun thing. I want to take people along the ride with me, Yeah,
and well, that's cool. And I've actually, so you probably started your channel. I probably started a little after you. So you started just kind of pre-COVID. Yeah. And then I think I started in like July, something like that. Cool. And it's interesting though, and that kind of leads to question 4, is since you've started your YouTube channel, like what's been your favorite part?
Man, the comments are hilarious, man. I think the comments are really funny. But I mean, in general, just the interaction with people off of YouTube the people that I've met. I've actually met people I live in a fairly small town right now in South Florida, and the people I've met people that saw me from YouTube in the small town. Like, it's insane. So
really,
and I've actually bought in collections from them, you know?
Really?
Yeah. So that in itself has been really cool. Meeting some of the guys, so John Paul from that Spider-Man booth, I got to meet him. I thought that was really cool. And that was slightly before COVID as well. But man, it's been just that interaction on Instagram, that relationship building, you know, kind of seeing it's like I said, I always kind of equate this with the music scene, regardless of how old we are. We're all just dudes sitting at the bar with a bourbon, just talking about music. And I think that's been the beautiful thing about the comic book community is regardless of age and ethnicity and where we come from and who we are, we can all bond over this. And, you know, we're all just people. We're all just kids at heart, like you said. We're all just giant children.
Yeah, well, I know that's what I am. So here's something I've been meaning, because I came across your channel, right? Just came across and started watching it. And what I dug about your channel is because when I first started, I was very, well, I guess naive maybe is the right word, but I was very exuberant. Like, you know, I loved everything that I opened. I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah. And then I found you. And you were given very, very honest, just, you know, hey, look, yeah, this is cool, but this is not really, you know, what I'm looking for. Yeah. Like, was that how your channel started? Is that kind of how you just are as far as like, hey, you know, here's my honest assessment of what, you know, this box really is? Yeah, yeah. I'm slightly bluntly honest a lot. I try not to be, but I guess I get that from my mother. But I don't think so here's the thing. I think when we're and you know this because you are an unboxer and you are you can spend thousands of dollars on these boxes easily a month. So if I'm investing, you know, let's say, you know, $4,000 into that Spider-Man booth a year, which is probably even under what I spend for that Spider-Man booth a year, I feel like I have a say in what I should get. I feel like, you know, and especially when that community is so, and not just to pick on them, because I do love what they do. But whether it's Box Heroes or Comic Vantage or anybody else, or A1 or whoever, I believe that we're paying for a product. We should be able to critique it, whether it's good or bad. And I don't think I've ever gotten a bad box per se, but I do think that there can be some more thought put into it. And again, I my boxes aren't anything crazy, but you know, we've all tried to do a box for somebody, or we've done an A-OK, and it's rough. And I think the reason it's easier for me is because I would never put my collection in there. You know, I can put I can put that stuff that I said, you know, that is it's value, but it's definitely not stuff that I would want. I'm not a huge Venom person. You know, I don't hate Venom, but I don't need 69 variants of Venom 25, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think for me, yeah. No, well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that's actually one of the things that drew me to your channel is that kind of honest take on, hey, here's what I'm getting. Because really, a lot of people will use unboxers, people like you and I, you know, to say, hey, is that something I would want? Yeah. And you can give an honest opinion. You know, hey, if you're a reseller, kind of like I am, then Box Heroes may not be the box for you. Yeah. There's some dope books in there, but at the end of the day, it's probably not really what you want, because you can go to your LCS and grab, right now anyway, you can go to your LCS and grab a lot of them. Yeah. Do you find it interesting, Alan, like there is a group of people that I just kind of fell into when I started the channel, like you're one of them. You're in a Instagram DM, a group that I'm in. And I didn't even know you were in there. I was already watching your channel, didn't know you were in there. They asked me to come in, and I was like, hey, Alan's here. I know that guy. You know, do you find it interesting, like almost a little family that gets built? Because there's kind of a core group of people that I have kind of fallen into or know or, you know, such as yours. Do you find that an interesting part of the YouTube experience?
You know what, man? You know, I don't find it surprising at all. It is definitely the part that I love. You know, in the music scene, you have your little sects of different things. So you have your punk scene, and you have your emo scene, and your hardcore, and your metalheads, and your thrash people, and all this other stuff. And I feel like we have the same thing in the comic book community. We, you know, it's been very supportive, but I think at the end of the day, you know, we're all just wanting to bond. It's a lot harder to bond when you got a family and all this other junk and the COVID going around. Right. But man, we need this. I think that's, you know, I think people laughed when MySpace came around, and people always said, oh, I have this friend on MySpace. Have you met them? Well, no, but they're my friends still. You know, we laughed at that 20 years ago, and now we're looking back going, you can have friends across the country, and you can build relationships still, and you can still do all this. And I think for me, it is needed. This is what keeps the comic book community going. The sales and the circles of the sales and the books and the variants, that's one thing, but the community is what keeps it alive. And we saw that with the Sonic movie that just released. We saw how much a community can change the mind of major productions. And, you know, whether it's cancel culture, people think, but I think it's just people are starting to realize that maybe their voice is louder than they think.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So question 5, since you started the YouTube channel, is there anything you would really do differently? Like, is there a mistake you made that you learned and you're like, oh no, I'm not doing that again? Is anything like that?
Man, I make a lot of mistakes. I will just say, you know, I love pretty much everybody you've had on. I've really loved, you know, their channels. I am, you know, I'm probably on the same line as like Taylor Winders. For me, this is fun. And I'm not a video editor. I'm not actually have to have someone help me get the sound and all this stuff ready for this interview, because I shoot on my iPhone with a pretty good mic, but otherwise, you know, I edit in iMovie, very simple, and I don't even edit. I chop it and fade it. Right. That's it. So I do the bare minimum, and it's just an honest representation. So what you're getting is who I am. It's representing me. There's no outtakes, and that's no dig on anyone. DJ Links, I love his setup. I love the multiple angles. It's amazing, and it helps present the product really well that he's putting out, and it helps present the boxes really well as well. But for me, you know, I can't say I would ever change anything, just because, you know, I'm not trying to at this. There are people that I believe, like, I think you're going to go far. I think you'll go very far in this YouTube.
Well, thank you.
And it's just the way you do this and the work you put into it. I can tell that you're a person who succeeds and you know, tries to learn and implement things and change things. But for me in this area, yeah, this is truly just fun for me. And when it stops becoming fun, you know, I'll definitely continue to be a watcher, but, you know, I'll take my wink ink bow basically and, right, you know, hang up my, you know, non-existent tie.
Right. So question, I guess 6, and I want to kind of change it up just a little bit, because I don't know if it's something, I talk about my uncle a lot. You've heard me talk about this uncle that I had. Dude, he basically did what you do. You know, like, he was a reseller. He was a thrifter. He was a guy that went to the flea markets and sold, and he made a living doing it. Yeah. And so I've always been kind of drawn to your channel too because of that. One, you know, there's an honest take on what you're seeing, but 2, you remind me a whole lot of my uncle. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the resale game. Yeah. And kind of, you know, question 6 would be like, how did you get in? Like, did you have like a day job at some point and you were like, dude, I can't do this. You know, I got to work for myself and go and see if I can't resell some stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk, man. Yeah. So I've worked in retail my whole life. I was a high school dropout by choice. I dropped out out of high school in Cincinnati, and I dropped out for a piece of pizza. They wouldn't let us go. until we signed papers. I was 18. We signed papers. We left. So we dropped out of school. Me and my brother and a few other people. So I started reselling as I was working full-time in retail. And it became retail became my passion because I love people. So as much as I disliked all the crazy little things in retail and the lack of pay and all that and the lack of respect in retail, I loved the people. So I stuck in it for retail for maybe 15 years, management and pretty big places. And while I was doing that, my mind was always, hey, I'm managing the back end of a Sears and these shoes just went on sale. They're New Balance, they're Reebok, they're Nike, whatever, and you know they're $15 on sale. They're going for $90 on eBay. I'll buy them, flip them, easy money. So I was always doing that mentality, just as an extra, and it just started. I think this past year has been like a year and a half full time supporting the family, reselling, and it just became literally, you know, someone pooped in the bathroom in one of my jobs and it was on the ceilings, on the sides of walls. And I said, man, I don't think I make enough for this. And it's just not a respectful atmosphere. And I literally didn't tell my wife. I came home and just said, like, I don't think I want to work a day of my life ever again. Like I'd rather skate by and enjoy my life and enjoy my family time than slave away every day, miss my kids, miss my family, and just be unhappy all the time. So I think for me, it's always been a resale mentality. You get 20 Pokemon cards, you sell a couple, you buy some more, you buy a bunch of comics, you keep 5 of them, you sell the rest of them, you buy some more, you know, and it's always been some kind of resale mentality. But for me, I always knew I could do it full time. I just had to devote the time to it and try to figure out what angles to go to, where to source products. So I always have multiple areas to source product from. So I have someone I buy specifically toys, action figures, Funko Pops, things like that. I have someone I buy specifically comic books from. I have someone that I specifically buy porcelain, vintage stuff, because I have an antique booth as well, and things like that. So yeah, and then there's always a thrifting game and all that as well.
Do you enjoy the hustle, like just the straight hustle of it? Yeah, that's what my uncle loved it. Like he said,
it's a high.
Yeah, that's what he said. Is there's something about finding, like he called it treasure hunting.
Yes,
you know, like you go treasure hunting and you find something that somebody doesn't think has that much value, but you know it does, and you're able to take it. And then when you sell it and you make that profit, he said, there's just something about the hustle, the whole thing that he dug. Same for you.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. And I mean, I'd say it's the same for you and same for probably anyone watching this video is, you know, we can all go to the new releases rack, but there's no thrill there. There's no thrill there. We all like the back room and we all get on our knees and go through the boxes. You know, I've got two LCSs around me. Actually, I've got 4, but they, you know, 2 of them only service like new stuff and then gamer stuff, and then the rest of them, and then the other 2 are just disheveled, beat up places, but they've got back rooms like crazy, dollar bins, and it is we know. So once I see something in our chats that goes up, I go, let me run to my comic book store, let me check this out. And then when you grab it and you're like, they do have it. So little thing, I actually bought the full God of Thunder run when I saw it in our chat, because I don't keep up with news, and I keep up with the Key Collector comic app occasionally, but I've got all of my eBay, all of my Poshmark, Mercari, all that stuff coming to my phone. So I turn notifications off almost all the time because otherwise it's just too much.
I would not stop. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, and even right now I didn't, and my phone is lighting up next to me. It's pretty insane. So, yeah. So for me, man, that's the treasure hunt of it all. That's it. Like that for me, that's it. Like I can still go to I went to a flea market the other day. Actually, I got the first He-Man in a box in the Superman He-Man like conjunction. Like I found it. I think it maybe paid $1.50 for it in a flea market, and I was like, this thing's man. I mean, it's not a 9.8, but it's got to be a 7.8, 7.8. 8.5. I mean, this thing is good. It's gorgeous, and bought it for like a couple bucks. So
yeah,
things
no,
like
you can't beat that.
things like that. Like I'm just flipping through, and I'm like, no,
Oh,
yes, this is amazing. And I have to keep my composure. So you got to keep your poker face.
That's right. So they don't know that you just hit the jackpot.
Yeah, treasure hunting is beautiful, and I think that's the best way to describe it for sure.
That's awesome, man. So, question, I guess question 7 is this: as far as the different markets as a reseller, because you mentioned a couple of them just a second ago, eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, then you've actually got physical locations.
Yes.
Like, what have you found? Because, especially with COVID, and this question is more COVID related, have you found that with COVID, like the online outlets are better than, like an in-person? Because one of the things that I worry about business-wise, really for our entire country coming out of COVID, is we have figured out that there's a whole lot of stuff that we can do sitting at the house.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to be as inclined to go out maybe to a mall or a thrift shop or a flea market and walk around. So in your experience, what have you found like this past year? Like, has online been better? Has the local been better? What's your experience been?
Yeah, man. It's a good question. I don't foresee the future as, just as what's going to happen in the next couple of years. I will say definitely COVID has probably forever impacted us as a society, in good ways, because I mean, 90% of the YouTube channels I follow, like you said, have come out because of COVID. And there's monetary value in that as well. I was able to sell out of my mystery boxes this last run just because of my YouTube channel, and that's been a beautiful help for us, so because it all is separate. If I'm reselling in general, I like to have my hand in every market that I can, just, because one may not do well in one month and one may do well in another month. The antique booth is actually in an antique mall, and it's in a very wealthy part of town, and it does really well, but it's geared towards people who probably weren't affected too much by COVID in the mind. They didn't really care about it. So I didn't see a decline in the physical location that I do. Excuse me. I have like 3 coffees here, so
Well, I just finished my coffee and then grabbed this Pepsi because I needed a little something to wet my whistle.
No, yeah, I'm the same way, man. But yeah, I will say, I've been doing eBay probably for 12 years, and this was the strongest last quarter I've ever had in eBay. I made more in the last 90 days than I have in full years before on eBay, sure. And I don't know to equate that with COVID. I really don't know. I don't know if it's just the future of people buying more online or whatever, but I'm out almost 5 times a week shopping and buying things. So I don't see a decline in physical outlets yet at all. It's a hard one, man. I definitely see online. I definitely see eBay. eBay's just easy because it's eBay. It has the biggest market ever out there, and we can sell on eBay. Whereas Amazon FBA is a little harder to get, unless you're grandfathered into. It's really hard to get into. So for us, I mean, eBay's just a necessity for me. It's the evil corporate monster that I hate, but I hate it to love it. It pays my bills. So at this point, Mercari's fantastic. I love Mercari. I actually got banned from Mercari, so I don't use Mercari except for buying. Poshmark is a popularity contest, but it works. But there's other apps that have come out this year that, like the Whatnot app, has been fantastic for selling Funko Pops. And I know they're doing comic books on there as well. And they're an authenticator. I know eBay's starting to authenticate shoes right now. So it's getting interesting, man. I do think that people will start. I mean, we saw that with Amazon. I mean, Amazon blew up in the last 5 years. I probably didn't buy anything off Amazon until a year ago. And, I finally gave in, and, started feeding the beast.
Right. Well, it's hard not to. I mean, like I have an eBay store too, and have probably had one for, I don't know, 6 years or so, just really to piddle. Like, I was getting into my old stuff. My kids were getting that age where they weren't necessarily wanting to talk to me, so I had to find something to do other than work. You know what I mean? So, and I started kind of going through some of my old collection. I'd list it, sell it, like you said, kind of churning the money so I could buy some new stuff, that kind of thing. So, no, that's one of those things, like, for example, Wonder Woman came out yesterday on HBO Max and movie theaters. And it's one of those things where I just wonder, are movie theaters in trouble? Because streaming is so good now, because they've got those sites set up to where they barely buffer if they do it all. The quality's good. I sat right in my house yesterday and watched the new Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in trouble. I think I was just talking about this with one of my friends who's a pastor, and it's just, churches in general are in trouble. Places of worship are already in trouble at this point. And the same thing with movie theaters, the same thing with, so here's the thing I would say is, because when I talk about this with my wife, she tells me I'm crazy. So maybe y'all can let me know if I'm crazy. But, virtual reality is becoming a real thing. And I truly believe that in 5 years, we'll put on our VR goggles and we'll go to, Comic-Con, and we'll get to have our celebrity meet and greet. And it'll be almost like that V-shout thing that Zobi does, where you can have Christopher Lloyd say something to you via V-shout. And I believe that we're going to be able to do that via app on our VR goggles, and it will feel great. And we're not going to have to deal with the hustle and bustle. I mean, we'll be able to go to California and go to a beach in California and not have to deal with all the craziness. You'll be able to go to a beach here in Florida, not have to deal with the beer cans all over the place, or the dogs licking you in the face and all this other random stuff. I think, and I think for me, when I would go to a movie theater, the older you get, it was a hassle. You got to get the kids ready. The kids are jumping around all around the thing when they're young. It's, you have the young teenagers that should be chaperoned and are not chaperoned, messing up the whole movie. So if I can have that same experience, and home studios are getting to the point where we can, have a nice setup in our house, have the surround sound, have that movie theater feel without all the chaos. I think movie theaters are in real trouble. I don't see a necessity for it. It's not proprietary at this point. There was one time where it was. I don't see it, man. I think people have to get creative, and that's why I've loved out of COVID, so much creativity has been born. And people are saying, how can I do this now? How can we used to do this? How can we do this? And I think, some of the online conventions that I experienced this year have been really cool. And does it replace the real thing? No. I mean, I got to meet Stan Lee at MegaCon, and I paid way too much for it. And that's still one of the best memories of my life, meeting Henry Winkler and having him talk to me, was still one of the best experiences of my life. But I think there's other ways around it. I didn't do the V shout. I haven't done any of the V shouts yet, but if I were, and I could talk to Christopher Lloyd, or I could talk to, Kevin Eastman or something, have a conversation, man, I don't know. I think that would suffice. And I think people are going to be in real trouble. So we got to get creative. Especially the comic book community.
Right answer. No, that's because I feel very similar in, the way that I think about it to what you just said. I probably couldn't have said it better. All right. So these last 3 questions, I want to talk about just some more random things that I've heard you say. Cool. And like question 8 is, I heard you say the other day, actually, and it's the first time I'd heard you say it, was that you're a huge Mickey Mouse fan. Like, you guys are a big Disney family.
Yes.
My family, we're a big Disney family. And we have been to Disney World in Florida and Orlando 1,000 times. Yeah. So what brought you to Disney? Like, I know one thing, when you got that Spawn collection, I saw when you got that, like, my favorite piece, and I think I messaged you and said, I'd really like to be cool and say that, one of those Spawn pieces was my favorite, but I really like that Garfield.
Yeah, so I love the Garfield. The Garfield's actually, it's in my pile to be framed and hung up. I love it, man. I really do. That stuff is, man, it is. You can't beat the relativeness to your childhood and those memories. It is, I think that's, so I've had Disney passes for, I don't even know, probably the last 6 years or so. And ours just ended last year before COVID, and like right before COVID, and we weren't gonna renew because we're actually moving back up to Cincinnati in February. So yeah, it's Disney has always been, like I said, I grew up dirt poor. We didn't have money. We grew up in Over the Rhine, and Over the Rhine in the 80s, it was not what it is now. Now it's bourbon bars and, and breweries and coffee shops everywhere. It was a lot more subtle back then, and not very fun. So we just didn't have money, so when, especially when I started, I dealt with depression a lot, and it's very hard to be depressed at Disney. It just really is. So yeah, I mean, you can be depressed at how much money you're spending, but it's one of those things that you have never looked back and said, man, I shouldn't have spent $12 on that Disney shaped, ice cream. Like it's beautiful. It's amazing. Like you can talk crap about the wait times and all that stuff, and all that is strategic. You get some fast passes, you schedule in advance. You don't have to do that. And then when you have a Disney pass, that was one thing. I used to relax. I would go to Disney, ride 3 or 4 rides, go eat, have fun. It's a relaxing day, Now with the kids, it's going to be a lot different. We're actually still thinking about doing Disney passes when we move up to Cincinnati and vacationing down in Florida. So we'll see how that works. But it's a lot less fun with kids for sure. But I enjoy it. I am 100% Disney oriented. There's Bolt, Tinkerbell, Lion King, everything. I mean, 101 Dalmatians is my absolute favorite movie. I absolutely adore the Disney mentality. I like Walt Disney. I don't know if I'd say I love him, and I'm sure he's definitely made mistakes in his life, but man, the joy and the happiness that man has brought the world through a mouse, through some simple cartoons. It's one of those things. It's almost like the Marvel movies, how, I don't think a lot of people liked Iron Man back in the day. I remember when I was a kid, people didn't talk about Iron Man or Thor. They talked about, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, and occasionally Wolverine and Hulk. And that's really it. But then when X-Men came out and Avengers came out and the Thor movies came out, it was almost this revitalization of our childhood. And you'd see these 40, 50, 60-year-old men just get excited in the theaters. And for me, that's what Disney is. Every time I see a Disney, I see a Mickey Mouse, anything. I'm like, man, this is gorgeous. And I got to share that with my 1-year-old who's almost 2. I got to share that with him, and he had this absolute love for Mickey Mouse, and now he's grown out of it and he loves garbage trucks. Something about garbage trucks. I don't know. Maybe that's a correlation somehow between Disney, but I don't know. Yeah, but I truly love that going back to our childhood, and that, I think Stan Lee kind of really nailed it too, was that he took these normal people out of the world and made them into superheroes. They were, they were blind people, they were, normal nerds. They were people who had nothing going for them, and, they didn't deserve a power, but, they learned how to control it. They were gifted with something. Right. And I feel like there's something in that for all of us. And I think the same thing for Disney. There's something in it for all of us, for every age.
No, great answer. Because we love Disney too. And as much of it was, my parents never took me to Disney growing up.
Yeah.
My dad was a coal miner, and, things were, kind of touch and go most of the time as far as whether they would be working or not. So it was but I've been very blessed and was able. The first time I took my kids, I was as in awe as they were.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my god,
it's a machine, and it runs very, very. Well, and I will say, people talk crap about Disney all the time. As much as Disney takes in, and we've had times where we've spilled something on our baby's outfit, or we've done something, you know, our baby's peed on themselves. It just happens when you have kids. You know, there's a cast member who will see that, and we've actually gotten gift certificates for free outfits and free onesies, you know, multiple times from Disney. You know, we've been, you know, they do a very good job at keeping that magic going and keeping that keeping the machine running. It just, it feels good when you're there. It's you know, minus the kids and the crowds, it's very stress free. Minus all that.
Yeah, cool. All right. So question 9, and again, one of those things that for your channel you've talked about, and I went back and looked. You know, it's weird because you'll find somebody on YouTube that you like, so you go back and look at all the old videos. Yeah. And one of the things I came across was you singing, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about, you know, do you still do music, or talk a little bit about what you did as a musician, you know, kind of growing up?
Yeah. So first answer, I still sing. So I started in, so I mean, we all started in like chorus and school and all that. I played a lot of music, so I don't really consider myself a singer, but I do that. I do sing quite a bit. But I love music. I've always loved music. You know, I used to write for a couple different web zines back in the mid 90s or so. And then, you know, started playing the punk rock music, and, you know, I found Bad Religion, and I found, you know, well, my mom was super eclectic with music too. My mom was a Black woman who grew up in Over the Rhine, but listened to Queen and The Who and Cheap Trick and Alice Cooper, and, you know, and then she would teach me all about James Brown, and she'd teach me all about the evolution of music, and she'd teach me about soul and gospel and pop and rock and all of it. And she had such a heart for music. I think that's where I got my passion of it from, just to see almost the same as the comic book community, how music can change people, change moods, change mindsets. It truly is therapy. So I got into punk music, went from there, did a little bit of touring, and then I realized there was no money in it. So the hustler in me started a record label like 12 years ago, and I said, okay, well, I can make money from the music and from the licensing. So I was licensing titles that hadn't been repressed in a while, licensing them for new formats, making money from that, which I still make money from that occasionally. And I still actually have physical product that I still sell from that. And I love the record label stuff. You know, at the height of it, it was fantastic. And then the digital wave came in, and it just, it ruined the physical product. People still buy vinyl, but it's not in the wave that I could be able to pay musicians to support their families. And that was my goal. My goal is, and the same thing with the comic book boxes. My goal has always been for everybody to win. Everybody, there shouldn't be a you know, a guy at the top of the Walmart chain that's doing better than his part-time people. We should all be able to make it. So for me, I've always done music. I actually met my wife playing music. We actually met at an open mic night, which was fun. You know, I've always played in churches. So one of my part-time jobs is that I'm a music director at a church, and I get to fiddle around with that. And I enjoy it, man. I enjoy music in general. Just you get to see, like I said, emotions change. You get to lead people to a place where they can forget about the stress in their life. And again, whether you're playing a John Mayer song, or whether you're playing a religious song, or whether you're playing, you know, whatever you. My wife plays Godsmack and Breaking Benjamin songs, you know, but she plays them in such a way that, like, man, it just, like I said, takes you to a different place. And that's all. That's what music's been about for me.
Cool. Give me Alan May's top 5 bands.
Whew, that's a hard one, man. That's a hard one. Gosh, I should have prepped.
You're right. No, just like off the top, like if you were going to go outside, here's how I always do it.
Yeah.
Like when you're driving around, who who you listen to. Like for me, I've got, I think if you watch Very Gary's, I kind of listed the 5 bands. There's probably 20 bands that I'm like that because I freaking love music. And then you had said something, I don't know if it was in a post or on one of your videos about Bogarts and the name escapes me, the place with the laundromat.
Sudsy Malone's.
Yes. And I've been to both of those.
Cool.
And, like Bogarts, I saw Green Day and Fugazi, saw them there. And then I don't even know who I saw at Sudsy Malone's. That was a long time ago and a different me. So
yes.
It was, so I don't even remember some random band. It wasn't anybody, important. We just ended up there. So, but no, like who do you listen to?
So,
and it can be religious music.
So,
it can be whatever.
So right now, I will say in my heart of hearts, as much as I dislike everything he says out of his mouth, I love Morrissey. And that was one of those things growing up as a lonely kid, as an outcast. The Smiths spoke to me. Morrissey spoke to me. I fell in love with that man. I mean, he's just, I
love it.
So that's definitely up there. So I love hip hop. Tupac would definitely have to be in my top 5 somewhere. And that was probably my memories of, driving in an El Camino with my mom with the windows down, listening to Tupac was one of the most beautiful things I remember.
Absolutely.
Man, I definitely have to go Queen just because of the versatility there. You just when it comes to vocals, Freddie Mercury was just a beast. Man, so speaking of vocals, let's go with Soundgarden. Chris Cornell was one of my absolute favorites, and it true loss to the world. I loved Soundgarden. I loved Audio Slave. I love Tom Morello. I'm a musician, so I love Tom Morello as well. And I love Rage Against the Machine. But man, Chris Cornell, that was a good one. I don't even know if that's 5. I don't know.
That's 4, but you're good. I want more.
You know what? There's I will just say, because I'm from South Florida, I just have to say there's a band called Under Oath, kind of a screamo hardcore man who's actually taken off in the last little bit. But man, seeing them from growing up in church culture, seeing them break through to selling, 500,000 records, things like that, hit number 1 on the Billboard. That's been beautiful. It's almost like a relationship. Like you see these people grow from 2 fans to 100 fans to 1,000 fans to, millions of fans. And I think that's been beautiful. That's
awesome. Yeah. No, those are all I love the Morrissey answer. Like I feel you. So I love it.
There was a vibe with it.
Yes, there was. All right. So question 10, and this will be our last question. This is kind of a new question. I haven't asked this of anybody yet.
Cool.
But it was suggested to me as maybe a good way to end the show. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try it on Alan. So are there I want you to give me 2 YouTube channels that I should be watching or I should be getting up with to interview. Is there somebody out there that, they can have 50 subscribers, but they're a dope channel, something you like.
Yeah. So I will just say, number 1, as a musician and as someone who loves comedy and just the intricacies of music comedy, Jared Dines is, I think he's got like 4 million subscribers or something, but him and Stevie T are somebody I watch weekly just because it's stupid, funny YouTube content, but then they'll release something serious and it's amazing, musically amazing. So I definitely think Jared Dines would be the number 1 for me. Man, I will say probably one of my favorite people, and I'll have to shout it out because you've already shouted him out. You've already done it. You've already done the interview with him. But, I think most of us have that same answer. Of I came into YouTube watching Gem Mint and statues, and one of my favorite things that he said, because you kind of feel bad when people talk about flipping and things like that, and I truly don't care. I got a family. I don't care what people think. I really don't. I sleep well at night. I don't care. But at the end of the day, if flippers don't support mystery boxes, I guarantee I guarantee you'll see mystery boxes go away because that's who's buying them. But you know, Jim Ment said on his channel once that the hobby should fund itself, and I've always loved that little quote that he had. I think that's amazing. That's something I've always known. But it's nice to have someone confirm that, you know, that you know, because I mean that dude's buying, you know, $1,200 statues weekly. You know, I can't get on that level. Sorry. I wish I could, but I live vicariously through him. And I think, yeah, he's a good one that people, I'm sure everyone that's watching I'm sure everyone's following him already, but everyone needs to follow him. I mean, he is, his content, I think he's proof that you don't have to put 30 hours of editing into a video to get to 100,000 subscribers. He's real, and I think that's what people attract people to him. And that his wife has been real, but that he also is engaged with the comments. He's engaged with his community. He has the live shows. He gives away a ton, and there's so much community built in that. So he's not a small channel at all. So he doesn't need more followers. Go follow me. I need followers.
Yeah, follow me.
Follow Slotted Up. Follow Gary B. I follow the guys that need the followers, that want the followers, that need. I mean, I hate to say Jim because he's got so many followers. Follow Taylor Winder. Yeah, but yeah, I do. Man, Jim Ment's got a ton of knowledge, and it has been cool to watch his channel grow, and watch how he's kind of stayed relevant. You know, and he releases a lot of. So I'm a reader, and kind of like he is, and I know you've said it as well. I like a story. As much as I appreciate art, I can deal with art being bad as long as the story is good. You know, I cared more about song lyrics than I cared about the actual production of the song. I cared, it just, to me, that's what carries it. You know, a movie can have a dope animation, but if it's, you know, bad story, ain't nobody going to watch it. So for me, like, that's everything. So when I got back into collecting, I was buying omnibuses, and one of the people I followed was Jim Ment, and he would talk about him. And, you know, that was the way I could get the story without, you know, buying a full run of stuff. And I was amazed by that because I had no idea omnibus existed until 2 years ago. Had no idea, you know, so.
I haven't me either, really, to be honest. Yeah.
And I mean, and you could buy a trade, and they had a couple books built in, or had the one, like the Maximum Carnage story built in. But like this way you get everything. I mean, it's just, you know, it's amazing to get 1 through 118 of the Hulk, you know, all in one book. It's insane. Like, you know, to read The Walking Dead in one giant book it blows my mind still to this day. And it's easier for me to do that rather than I've got a ridiculous amount of comics, you know, the personal collection, and then the resale stuff. So to be able to go through and find one storyline, one set of 5 books, it's rough sometimes. So a lot of times, as soon as I get books, if I don't crack them open that week, they're gone forever. They're never gotten to. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, Jim Ment, Very Gary, all those dudes. I think you have the same mentality that I have, is not that we don't just want to be entertained, but we want to learn. And both of those dudes, I appreciate that you had them on, because it was questions that I had for them were pretty much the same stuff you asked. And it was nice to get to have them affirm some things that I had already thought and learn from them as well, you know, and they're both such down-to-earth guys. Those are people that, you know, we need to be following, because we need to learn what we're doing. We need to, not that this is a job or a trade. My hat is like off to the side, and I can't get it straight because the camera's like weird.
Yeah,
it's awful. But yeah, I love Jim. I really do. He's somebody that he's probably one of the people that I watch the most on YouTube. And I've probably him, and oddly enough, him and Slotted Up are probably the two I watch mostly. And I don't know why. Was it Jason? I have no idea why I watch him so much. I know he's watching. Hey, Jason. I have no idea why I watch him so much, but I enjoy his content. I do. It's chill. It's chill. I feel like I'm sitting down with him, and I'm just like we're in a room and he's like, "Hey, look what I got today." I feel like I feel like that's it. Like, and that's what I love, and that's what I've tried to replicate. I just, it was never an entertainment value for me to do these videos. It was, hey, I'm doing this. Come along with me vicariously. Open a mystery box with me because I know you don't want to spend the money. So why don't you spend my money? Yeah. And I've loved that.
Cool, man. I love it. Alan, I've had an absolute great time. So let everybody know where they can find you as far as, I always think it's funny, Alan Maye, right?
Yeah.
So talk to everybody about where they can find you.
Yeah, it's the most unoriginal username in the world. But I did that so I wouldn't forget it. That's the bad thing with 3 kids. You forget a lot of things. So you can find me on Instagram, Alan Maye. YouTube is Alan Maye. Don't add me on Facebook. I love y'all. Don't add me on Facebook. I try to keep. There's too much junk on Facebook, and I'm trying to get away from Facebook, anyways. But the Instagram community, man, find me on Instagram. I love connecting with comic people on Instagram. I love people. I get like DJ Links and a couple other people, Michael Acria and James Werner. They've been super great. People will send me links to things and, hey, get on this, learn this. This is getting hot. And I love that. It's with 3 kids. It's with kids, it's just rough, man. It's rough to stay connected with the culture. So it's been beautiful to have that. But that's where you can find me. I think I got a mystery box coming out like soon. We actually picked out all the books. So me and my wife spent 3 days picking through long boxes and finding books that we liked. So
yeah, check out his mystery box because his mystery box is great. I mean, like we opened one up the other night. We did a little Christmas show.
That was enjoyable to watch, man. I was nervous. Nervous is all, but man, it was so cool just to watch y'all just have fun. Again, it's almost, again, it's like we're in the room with you. It truly is. It's something special about this.
Well, cool, man. Look, I love your channel. I've always, from the time I first started watching it, I've always watched, and I don't know, I don't know that I heard you say you were from Cincinnati, but for some reason I was like, that dude seems like he would be from Cincinnati. I don't know if I've met somebody that was like you. I don't know what it is, but I was like, I can hang out with that guy.
Yeah, he seems trashy enough to be from Cincinnati. Yeah, I was born in Covington actually, so technically my birth certificate says Kentucky, but there's no hospital, so you got to go to Cincinnati, go to UC. Sure. Yeah. So,
cool, man. Well, brother, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I've had an absolute blast getting to know you a little better. I dig your channel. Everybody, go check out Alan Maye. Go check out the playlist I've got. The 10 questions. Alan mentioned some of the people I've had on. Jim Mint, Very Gary, the Nerdy Girl. DJ Links, Taylor Winder, Gary B, slide it up. There's 1,000 of them. And now, my boy Alan Maye. Guys, we will catch you next time. See you later.